everyone, I'm Yotobari288 with GosuGamers, and today I have two very awesome guests. Do you guys care to introduce yourselves?
I'm Hexagrams.
I don't really do the speaking thing very often, but I'm ZP.
That was very good. That was very good. See, you're halfway there already. But yeah, so as you guys know, these are definitely fan favorites of both GosuGamers and just Overwatch in general. So let's just get right into it. How did you guys meet in the first place? Because it always seems like one of you is there, the other one is there casting for most cases. And how did you guys actually either start to be friends, start to work together? How did that first start?
Well, like all good stories, it was a blind date where we were sort of arranged to each other in the early GosuGamers casting, and somehow it worked out. But that actually is the story where GosuGamers was looking for casters for the original weeklies, and we just sort of got paired together.
Yeah, they wanted ZP. I kind of bullied my way into that. I'd written for GosuGamers for about a year, and I wanted to migrate over to Overwatch because class-based shooters, specifically Team Fortress 2, is a great love of mine, and I wanted to get into Overwatch. And so they were throwing me a bone, I think, after a year of writing, and they said, we'll let you audition, and then me and ZP just kind of hit it off.
For me, I'd been streaming Heroes of the Storm for about a year and a half and realized that I wanted to switch over into Overwatch for both streaming and casting, which ended up being just casting because of how all-consuming broadcasting is. But I knew that there'd be a good opportunity here. And GosuGamers reached out to me, and I figured, actually, yeah, I have a good production setup. I'm interested in casting. Let's see where this goes.
Nice, nice. So basically just GosuGamers set you up is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Yeah, they were the matchmaker. I mean, ZP is being humble now too. Cause, I mean, you probably wanted to get back to your FPS roots, right? I mean, you're a former pro FPS player, ZP.
Something tailspin. Let's leave it at that.
Well, as you guys have said, you guys are definitely one of the longest casting duos in Overwatch, going back to the first Gosu Weeklies, and now you've done a whole bunch of stuff, including the Carbon series and the Overwatch monthly melees, pretty much monthly. How do you, or rather, what do you think makes your tag team casting so successful?
I would say, if anything, we definitely have match priorities in how we approach the game, how we approach our just work ethic and improving a casting, where if one of us wants to pursue something, we'll go, hey, let's work on this. The other one is almost always on the same page and go, yeah, I was actually thinking about working on that as well. There hasn't been a case where you think that one side isn't putting as much into it as the other, and it's been really helpful and pushing one another to do better jobs at casting overall.
Yeah, the ethic has always been there, and I don't know, we kind of found out recently that we've just mind melded. Like, we just think too much alike. It's been absolutely frightening, and I think a lot of it, we have complementary personalities in some aspects, because ZP can be very excitable, and it's awesome. It's great for broadcasting, where generally I'm a little bit more low key, and it works really well together. And we found out that through time we actually just do get along, and I think you have to have kind of those personalities where, like, I'd want to watch a game with ZP even if we weren't casting it, and we often do.
Oh, that's adorable. Going into a bit more about your actual, like, getting into a game just before a game, how do you guys prepare for casting a tournament? Do you guys prepare together? Do you guys go separately? Do you talk like a battle strategy or something before each match? Excuse me. So how do you two set up for your casting?
I answered this a little bit yesterday, but it kind of depends on the tournament and how comfortable we feel going into it, of like, how do we know the teams? Obviously, if we just did a monthly melee with the 3 teams we're going to be casting the next day, then what more prep do we really have to do? And also, a lot of our prep is just throughout the week, just watching everything and then just chatting with each other of like, what did you think here? What do you think there? And talking about this player or that player. So sometimes it's not as formal as some people would assume as far as prep goes, but we're just always prepping. We're always in the mode for Overwatch.
The number one thing you could do to have good prep for Overwatch is simply watch as much as possible, especially if you're going to be casting something in that region anytime soon. You don't want to be in the situation where I think some people may sometimes get themselves in, where you go, oh, this is coming up, I need to prep. You don't want to be the guy that's cramming. Like, just like in college work, it's better to do a lot of work on a day-by-day basis rather than pulling an all-nighter before a test. Well, I feel like it's similar for casting, where as long as you're immersed in the scene and you're paying attention, that's going to do a lot for you. I will note that by nature of the event, it can change things up, right? So for something like the Carbon series, where you know the exact matchup that you're going to be seeing, and you have, say, 2 matchups in a day, you can definitely help by looking at, say, maps that the teams are good at and doing a little bit more team-specific prep. But the big takeaway in general is if you are genuinely passionate about the game and you are watching everything and thinking, and not just watching, but also thinking about what you're seeing, I think it can go a very long way in helping you just sound like you know what you're talking about on cast.
And to add on to that, we've actually noticed, not too recently, but there's a huge difference between passive prep and active prep. There's one thing to just be sitting in a channel and the game is on, while you're playing Hearthstone or something like that. It's a completely different thing to jump in and actually try to practice cast it. So you're getting engaged and you understand everything that's happening. And also that just helps you practice your vocals, it helps you practice your rhythm, it helps you practice everything to actually be saying some of these things out loud.
Nice. Now, I know you guys usually cast online, so you guys aren't actually together when you guys are doing play-by-play and analytics and all that jazz. Is there a difference, really, between online casting and casting in-house? Is one requiring a little bit more preparation, as you guys mentioned before, or is it just more of the same thing, except just a different place?
I wouldn't say it's an issue of preparation. I would say that being in person helps a lot more because you not only get just more time hanging out the person to sync up and sort of banter that you're going to be coming out with, but when you're in the middle of the cast, it's much easier to have smoother handoffs and all the rest, where online you can't physically see the other person or know when the other person really wants to go in, so you have to feel it out. When you are in person, it's very easy for me to just sort of hold up my arm and go, just wag it a little bit to go, wrap this point up. I want to get in for play-by-play, or vice versa if Hex really wants to make a point. So there's something to be said for just being able to physically see the person in regulating casting flow.
I was actually very worried early on when I did my first event of I'm used to having my own camera. I need to see stuff. And I quickly realized that having the same camera view as the person you're casting with is so important. So you can be talking about what's actually on screen. I think some online tournaments will really struggle where casters are talking about things that's not on camera, and they're missing things because they're not seeing the same thing that the viewers are seeing, which is hugely important. And so obviously I prefer to be seeing the same screen and casting with the person in person. It makes it much easier. And also a lot of times when we're casting, we're not just casting, we're doing double duty. We're trying to admin games, and in ZP's case, he's running camera and production. It takes a lot of mental bandwidth to be able to do all of those things at the same time. So when you just get to be in game, look at the screen and cast what's on, I think you can see that the performance does go a little bit up.
When you guys are casting, is it usually one person, or rather ZP in this case, as Hex mentioned, you're usually doing the camera production, and you guys never switch off or anything like that?
Well, from tournament to tournament, the thing is that I have the production PC and all the rest here, where I invested a lot of money into a good setup before Overwatch. So in Hex's case right now, he doesn't even have a second PC that could really run things at a similarly high quality. So the idea of just swapping off the production from one person to the other week after week would be difficult, to say the least, just because you do need to have the higher end PC to really put out tournaments in good quality. Whereas if you try and run on one stream PC, it's sort of, you get less of a video quality that you would really be looking for.
Yeah, there's a reason that ZP's online streams look godlike, and it's kind of that tier in broadcasting right now. It's amazing looking, and I'm happy that he has it. And I think a lot of it right now is, ZP has seen me do it. I've seen him do other things too. I could run camera, but he's good at it. He's practiced at it. We run essentially the same camera. We want to see the same thing, so you wouldn't see much of a difference. But now it's just, why would you start learning something new? Why would I be I'm doing production this week, you go deal with all the players and set up lobbies? We have it down to a system where it's worked out pretty well, that we're able to do these high-level online tournaments with a skeleton staff. Nice.
That sounds good. Moving on, though, you guys have seen a lot of Overwatch within the past year of its coming into be. How do you think Overwatch evolved from the start, and what do you think is going to happen in the near future?
Well, that's a pretty loaded question in terms of scope, but yeah. I mean, clearly Overwatch started with, on the competitive side, it came out a little bit slow, where it was community tournaments and all the rest, and then once we got to release, it turned out to be one of the most successful games of 2016, a gigantic install base, which ended up ramping up the degree of competition rather heavily, where suddenly, instead of having $1,000 weeklies, you have a $300,000 Overwatch Open that is being run by Turner Esports. So because the game itself in Overwatch was so successful, it put the esports scene from 0 to 60 very, very quickly.
just on the competitive side of things, I think we're seeing right now that a lot of the teams and players, especially the young ones, are players who want to be in Overwatch, not people who just happen to be there, which was kind of the case for some of the players and teams when it just started out. And now you're seeing that there's a lot of hungry people out there who want to prove themselves and play, and they're grinding out hours and hours. So I think you will see a lot of turnover in the old veterans and then the new players coming up, and you're actually already starting to see it.
Nice. Well, you guys have obviously been casting for quite a long time in Overwatch. Do you have a favorite moment thus far that just kind of like stuck with you throughout the entire year that Overwatch has been around?
It's recency bias, but the moment in Carbon where it was like the epic fail where he jumps up to the top and he gets stoned by a rocket. It's still one of the funniest things. I still watch it on occasion.
The mind meld is real because that is exactly what I was going to mention for recent things. Overall, I think it's very difficult to choose one big moment overall as this was the thing, because there are a lot of great moments as you broadcast Overwatch, and just I don't think anything stands out as being this is the biggest moment, period. There's many great moments, but to just isolate one would be pretty difficult.
Fair enough. Well, if someone out there did want to get into casting, wants to get into esports in general, do you have any advice for that up-and-coming person or anyone who does want to cast in the future?
I'll let ZP elaborate, but my answer has been simple every time. Put in the work, put in the hours, actually do it. So many people have this notion of like, I really like Overwatch and I'm passionate about it. Is that enough? No, it's so not even close to enough. There's so much more that goes into it that just do it. Just start doing it. Just watch a VOD, cast it, record it, critique yourself, look back. I mean, you just have to put in the work.
As Hex has alluded to here, you do have to put in a rather substantial body of work if you're not coming in with some form of in. So when I say some form of in, coming in as a big broadcaster, another game, that's an in. Coming in as a streamer that's holding 10K concurrents, well, that would be an in. Other than that, you really do have to sort of go the flame route, I would say, and just make a lot of homebrew content that's very good. You have to have some sort of hook, right? Where broadcasting-wise, you need to either have an incredible voice, incredible insight. I mean, ideally, get both if you can. You need to have something that sets you apart. You can't just be a guy. You need to be something beyond that to where people are listening to you and go, I want to listen to more of this person's content because of this person. If you're not bringing anything unique to the table, it's going to be very difficult to stand out against what is a very competitive field right now.
Nice. Well, thank you again, you two, for talking with me. Once again, this was ZP and Hexagrams, and I am Yodobari288. Thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Thank you.